It is not about how much you make. It is about how you manage what you make. That is one of the most important lessons I learned across nearly a decade in investment banking, working closely with high net worth clients, whether you are earning $50,000 or $500,000. The strategies the top 1% use to grow and protect their wealth can be applied by absolutely anyone. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 15-65-20 system, a simple, proven framework that can help you manage your money the way a genuine financial expert would, regardless of your starting point. Let's get into it. Starting with the most important piece, which is the 15 cents. That is how much of every dollar you earn should be set aside for your own future before anything else touches it. This is where long-term security genuinely begins, and you're doing this for two important reasons. Reason one is peace of mind. Imagine you're going about a completely normal day when suddenly a flat tire happens, or an unexpected medical bill arrives, or an urgent family situation comes up out of nowhere. Without a solid cash cushion in place, you are not just dealing with the surprise itself. You are now also panicking about how on earth you are going to pay for it. And that double layer of stress is exactly what derails people's finances and sends them into a spiral that often takes months or years to fully recover from. But not if that 15% cushion is already in place. Start by building a quick access fund, enough to cover 1 month of your essential expenses. This is your first line of defense against life's smaller surprises. And 1 month of living expenses is genuinely not as much as people assume, because it does not include your Netflix subscription or any discretionary spending. It only covers your core costs: rent or mortgage, groceries, transportation, utilities. From there, work your way up to 3 to 6 months of those same core expenses. This emergency cushion gives you something that is genuinely hard to put a dollar value on: the peace of mind that comes from knowing that if something major happens, a job loss, a health scare, any unexpected crisis, you are still covered and will not have to go into debt to handle it. The security of having 3 to 6 months of essential expenses saved means you get to focus entirely on dealing with the actual emergency rather than the secondary stress of how you're going to afford it. The second reason to set aside that 15% is to make your money work for you. And you do not need to be a financial expert to start doing this. In fact, you might already be doing some version of it without fully realizing how powerful it is. Let me show you exactly why this matters with a comparison that genuinely changed how I think about time and money early in my career. Picture two people, both starting at age 30. The first invests a lump sum of $10,000, earns a steady 6% annual return, and does not touch that investment for 20 years. By the time she turns 50, that initial $10,000 has grown to roughly $32,000, without her adding a single extra dollar after that initial investment. Now picture the second person. He waits until he's 40 to start investing. He contributes $2,000 every year for 10 years, earning that same 6% annual return. By the time he turns 50, his $20,000 in total contributions has grown to around $27,900. That is a solid result. But it is still less than the first person, even though he put in twice as much money overall. The entire difference comes down to time and compound interest. The first person's money had an extra 10 years to grow and compound, and that extra decade made all the difference. Her initial $10,000 snowballed into $32,000 without her contributing another cent. This is exactly what people mean when they call compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. The longer you let your money work for you, the more dramatically it can multiply over time. It behaves like a runaway train. Your returns start earning their own returns, and that effect accelerates the longer it is allowed to run uninterrupted. So, where do you actually start? You have a few clear options. First, if you are contributing to a workplace retirement plan, you have already started this process. An employer match is essentially free money. Your company contributes an additional dollar for every dollar you put in, up to a certain limit. So, if you earn $50,000 a year with a 5% match, that means for every dollar you contribute up to $2,500, Your employer matches it. You want to make sure you are contributing at least enough to capture the full match available to you. It is one of the simplest ways to supercharge your savings, since those contributions are typically made pre tax and the money grows tax deferred until withdrawal. Second, tax advantaged accounts. In the US, that is your Roth IRA. These accounts let your investments grow completely tax free. No tax on dividends, no tax on capital gains. The government offers these specific account types as an incentive to encourage long term saving and investing. Keep in mind that with a Roth IRA, you are investing money that has already been taxed since it comes from your paycheck after tax is taken out. So you pay tax at the start rather than at the end. With your workplace retirement plan, it generally works the other way around. You pay tax at the end, upon withdrawal, rather than at the start. The strategic move is to max out these tax-advantaged accounts first, before moving any additional surplus into a standard taxable brokerage account. Now, once you have the right account in place, what do you actually invest in? The secret here is to keep it genuinely simple with passive index funds. These funds essentially track the overall market, automatically diversifying your money across hundreds or even thousands of different companies at once, so you're never putting all your eggs in one basket. They also come with very low fees, which means more of your money stays invested and working for you rather than being eaten away by management costs. Once your tax-advantaged accounts are set up and you are contributing on a regular schedule, you can largely let those passive funds do their job. There is no need to constantly tinker, chase trends, or try to beat the market. Set it up, automate it, and leave it alone. It is genuinely the most reliable path to long-term wealth, and it is a strategy used quietly by some of the most successful investors in the world, precisely because it works. Now, let's talk about the 65 cents, the portion of every dollar that should go towards your fundamental expenses. This is where the essentials live: rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, transportation, and any other genuine must-haves that keep your life running smoothly. This is honestly the trickiest part of the entire framework, because these expenses have a sneaky tendency to balloon right alongside your income. You get a raise, and suddenly your current apartment feels too small. You upgrade your car, and what feels like progress quietly brings higher insurance and maintenance costs along with it. Without a firm boundary, your expenses will naturally expand to match whatever you earn, which is exactly why capping your fundamentals at 65% makes such a meaningful difference. It keeps your core costs in check, so you are never scrambling just to cover the basics, regardless of how much your income grows. I will be honest, this is often easier said than done, especially if you live somewhere with a genuinely high cost of living. Housing is consistently the largest spending category for most households, typically representing somewhere close to a third of total household spending once you include rent or mortgage payments and utilities. Transportation is usually the second largest category, covering vehicle costs, fuel, maintenance, and public transit. Take a real look at your own spending and write down what your biggest categories actually are. Once you know exactly where your money is going, you can start looking for ways to optimize the largest costs specifically. Can you negotiate a better rate on your rent or your insurance? Can you swap an expensive daily commute for a more affordable option? This is not about cutting out the small joys in life. It is about keeping the big, unavoidable costs under control, so your budget has genuine breathing room for everything else. And that brings us to the final 20 cents, the fund money. There is a powerful idea I came across in a well-known book on wealth and mortality, and it is essentially that the ultimate goal is not to die with the largest possible bank balance, but to actually use your money to build a rich and fulfilling life along the way. The wealthiest people I encountered in banking understood this intuitively. They intentionally built room into their financial lives for guilt-free enjoyment. And you should too, because working hard with zero room for enjoyment is a reliable path to burnout. Research consistently shows that people who allow themselves some flexibility within their budget are far more likely to stick with their broader financial goals over the long run. Think of it like an overly strict diet. If you never let yourself have a single indulgent meal, eventually you break completely and binge. The exact same psychological principle applies to money. You might be wondering whether this derails your savings and investing progress. In practice, it tends to do the opposite. If you do not carve out a portion of your income for guilt-free spending, you become significantly more likely to overspend impulsively later, or worse, abandon your savings and investing plan altogether out of sheer burnout. That is exactly why this framework allocates 20% of your income specifically towards fun, enjoyment, and personal fulfillment. You could even reframe that 20% as an investment in yourself. By staying genuinely motivated, balanced, and energized, you actually increase the odds of sticking with your long-term financial plan rather than abandoning it 6 months in. In practice, this might mean treating yourself to a genuinely nice dinner once a month, finally buying the item you have been thoughtfully considering for a while, or planning a trip with people you care about. The key is giving yourself permission to enjoy that 20% fully without guilt or quiet self-judgment attached to it. So that is the full system. 15 cents of every dollar towards your future self, split between an emergency fund and tax-advantaged investing. 65 cents towards your fundamental, non-negotiable expenses, kept deliberately capped so they do not expand to swallow every raise you get. And 20 cents towards genuinely enjoying your life along the way, guilt-free and fully intentional. This is not a complicated system. It does not require a finance degree or a six-figure income to apply. It requires consistency and a willingness to actually follow the percentages, even when life makes it tempting not to. If you found this video useful, subscribe. I post every week on money, investing, and building a financial life that is genuinely yours.